This is a podcast from the Queen City Podcast Network.
Hope. Sometimes we need help finding it. And sometimes that help comes in the form of stories of people who've lost it and found it yet again. That's why we're here. Welcome to Hope with Ramona Holloway. This is part 3 of our 4-part series on dementia care. We're focusing on the caregivers. And because one of the things that I learned in my dementia care journey is that I shouldn't even try to do this by myself, I brought in the experts. I collaborated with Memory and Movement Charlotte. They are a practice in the Queen City that's nonprofit and that's dedicated to educating and empowering families on that dementia journey, whether it's through Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, or other forms of dementia. The founder of Memory and Movement Charlotte is Dr. Chuck Edwards. Dr. Chuck Edwards is not just an author, he's a podcaster, but he also lives this. He walks the walks with families in our community still. Because the one thing I've learned is that there is no cure for dementia, but we can support our loved ones as they go through it. And this particular podcast is dedicated to supporting the caregivers who are loving themselves and their loved ones through a very difficult journey. And Chuck, I understand why the Alzheimer's Association calls it the long goodbye, because you start saying goodbye once you recognize that you have a diagnosis. I believe for me, that's when the grieving actually started. I got to a point where I was able to manage the grief with the caregiving and the job, but I had a lot of help getting there. And I also was able to get to a point where I'd grown up enough to not just accept mom where she was, but I was able to, with gratitude, accept where I was. And you say I had gotten to the point where the switch was flipped.
Well, I think this is a really important moment. And sometimes the switch comes on Tuesday and then it goes off on Thursday and it kind of flips around a little bit. But the switch is when we get to, and this is stage 4, stage 3 after the switch. The switch is you don't throw it. If you are a caregiver, you don't have control over it. It is thrown for you.
Can we just marinate on that for a minute? You don't have control over it.
I don't believe you do.
And I'm a part of some dementia care groups still on social media, and I've seen some caregivers write, dementia can't have my dad, or dementia can't have my mom. They're going to fight it. Okay, that's going to be tough because dementia fights dirty.
It really does. This is going to sound harsh. But 50% of our patients in our clinic will die of a medical illness. They'll die of a heart attack, a stroke, or cancer, or whatever. And this is going to sound harsh, but I want that to happen. I do not want to play out dementia to the end in my patients. I'm very close to them. And the only thing that I really care about is preserving dignity. I don't want these marvelous people who still have some fight left in them. I don't want them to get into an undignified situation. The switch happens in that this very strong visceral attachment to the suffering of this person that you love takes its toll. And one day, you are no longer on that sort of roller coaster with your emotions. And every time something ticks down, your heart just crumbles.
Yeah.
What the switch does is it protects you. Humans can only give so much of this emotion. And so what you become is a manager. You're a strategist. You know what you have to do, and you are still giving excellent care, but your emotions have been pulled back. Now, what happens is that this is accompanied by a question, or two statements. I don't know if I'm going to be able to take this to the end. This is getting very hard.
That was tough. And I had, thankfully, through, once again, local resources, at that time I was taking my mom to the IV, and I was working with Lori, the most amazing dementia care navigator I could ever work with. And she asked me that question: do you think you can see this through to the very end? Like, no matter what? And
you actually
took me
did.
A lot.
You did,
to
though.
Say no, like at home.
Oh, okay.
Could I see it through at home?
Well, yeah.
Because seeing it through, because there was that point where I asked myself, could I see this through as a disease? And the answer was no. The answer was no. I can't do this. I saw my grandfather. When they put a tube up my grandfather's nose, I nearly passed out in the hospital. I saw the pain. But it was for my mother and her siblings. Mm-hmm. There were 9 of them. There was 1 of me, and I'm an only child, and I'm single, and I don't have family in the area. Yeah. And she's my best friend and my main support system. She was my emotional rock. Mm-hmm. And now, could I see this disease through to the very end? And the answer at first was, I don't think I can. Yeah. I don't believe that I can. I had to really work hard.
You found it, though,
with
didn't
help
you?
From other people.
Yeah. Well, I know, but they were tapping into your strength.
I had to first lean on some other people for strength. Learn how to ask for and accept help, so that I could work on those feelings of hopelessness, to get to a point where I could look at dementia every day and say, dementia, okay, you're doing your thing, but God, thank you that she remembers how to wipe herself today.
And also, dementia's over there. We're not going to let it defeat us. The second statement that people make that really hurts is they say, I'll be glad when this is over. And as soon as they do that, they realize that what they've said is, I'll be glad when my mother's dead. And there is this wave of feeling, I must be the worst person in the world. First thing I want to say about that is, one is that almost every caregiver has that emotion. These are human. We are human. And
because it's more than just science. And I'm so glad that you recognize that the heart is bigger than science to me, that part needs to be nurtured as well. That heart that says, did I just wish my mother dead? But honestly, for me, it got to the point where I said, God, I don't know how long this is going to be. And this was toward the very, very end when hospice had been called in. But just give me the strength to get through whatever this is, however long it has to be, and that I can learn something from it.
Well,
that's going to be helpful to someone else.
I had a statement that once we got into this part of it, I'd say, I'm not in the dementia business, okay? I'm in the dignity business. And what we're going to do is we are going to make this a very dignified situation. And as soon as we did that, for instance, when you call hospice in, people say, "Oh, I don't want to call hospice. That means that we've given up." And I said, "No, only two things.
You get more help and you get free counseling."
Yeah, I know.
Thank you. Hospice, thank you, Lord.
And Medicare pays for everything when you're on it there. Just a little benefit. But with hospice, it says two things. One is that whatever's going to happen is going to happen in a place that we're going to control it. It's going to happen at home or in a place we've decided that we want our loved one to be in. We're not going to go to the hospital. 91% of our patients die outside the hospital. And I feel like that if they die in the hospital with dementia, that somehow I haven't done my job, because I don't want to be in that. I've spent my whole life inside hospitals, and I want them to be surrounded by their families.
That's the loved part of your equation.
Right. So, but oftentimes the caregivers, when the switch is thrown, and it's usually done in the people that have done the best job of caregiving up until that point, and they feel ashamed because they now know that this is a different gig, that I'm no longer, I'm not with you like I was before. Mm-hmm. I am going to do everything I can, but now I got to make good decisions for you. And that's where a lot of healthy stuff comes from. But it really, so I would have to do counseling. Rarely would I have to start a medication, but sometimes you get overwhelmed. You get that wave of, oh my God, what's going on here? And when that wave comes, you can't make a decision. Someone says, well, would you rather have the macaroni and cheese or the slaw? And you go, I've made enough decisions. I'm not making that decision. Bring them both or whatever it is. But you lose the ability to make decisions. That's when, your soulmate, the people you can say, look, this is where I am. And say, I've been there. This will pass. But the switch is very important in the fact that it's there to protect you. And it also, when it's thrown, you have to forgive yourself for the change in the environment that you're in, because you didn't throw it, and it's actually a protective mechanism.
Yeah. I mentioned to you how disturbing it was for me to look at coverage of Bruce Willis's dementia journey. His wife gave that interview where she talked about moving him to a different home, and that home decision can be very hard. For me, I had to really take a look at the fact that I was burning out. Not only was I burning out, but dementia care is hard, not just for those of us who have someone we're related to or married to, but for the people we hire who truly care. It's tough for them too. And you said something to me that I said, "Ooh, Chuck, if you don't say that on camera, I'm coming over there." You said caregivers are good caregivers if they do just one thing.
Well, what I said is that
the most important thing.
Right. That, first of all, let me give a little preamble. The CNAs, and I say this that they're on the first rung of the care. I have learned just how important they are, and I want them to feel like that they are professionals.
I hope all of my girls feel loved, because, woo, Beth Ann and
we only have one.
Kelly and all of you, Vicky.
Well, Ramona, I only have one criteria for my CNAs, and is that do they have the potential to love the patient? And I am amazed at the number of times that the person at the end, when they've been there and they love this person so much, and they have lived with them and they've watched them go down, are the ones that really are, one, is emotionally torn up by it, but that they're there for the patients and for the families. And when I was in the office, every time that I would see a patient, I wanted the CNA who was caring for them to come to the office because I got the skinny from them. I knew what was going on. I could trust them. We've spent a lot of time educating the CNAs because they, and actually it's really ironic. We were talking about physician and nurse burnout, and we were doing a section in a program that where they're developing, and the group that has the highest susceptibility to burnout are the CNAs, and yet you never hear burnout over certified nursing assistants. And so what we're trying to do is to bring some awareness to that situation and just remember how vital they are and the role they play. They're there all day, every day. It's not like when I was a doctor, I come in at 7 o'clock in the morning, at 4:30 in the afternoon, and I got to find out what's going on. And I haven't been there. And here's this person that's been there at the bedside. So I just feel like that they need to know how important they are in this
Thank
lineup.
you for that, because I hope if one message resonates with people after they watch this series, I hope that message is carers need care too.
They do.
And I want you to talk about what burnout looks like for a caregiver. What does that look like?
Well, burnout is where you almost disappear, that you start to have some somatic manifestations of it. Oftentimes it can either be dietary problems, it could be headaches, it can be a lot of stress. But what happens is that you feel like that your personal involvement, what you're doing, doesn't matter anymore. You almost, as a professional, disappear. You might go through the motions, but that connection, that human connection to the other person is taken away. And right now in medicine, physicians all the way down to the nursing assistants, burnout is epidemic.
So be gentle
and
patient.
And we are suffering from it. I mean, because we need those emotions,
right?
That reaching out. I understand, one of the things that a nursing assistant or any of us medical caregivers, we're there to console and to support. And when you forget that, it's not all about science. It's about understanding. See where the patient, what they want you to do is oftentimes they don't even ask you to cure them. All they're saying is just see me, talk to me, help me predict what's going to happen. I'm okay. You don't have to, but the science goes. And then you need to have that compassion and that sort of love for these patients and say, I'm so proud of you for what you're doing. Just to say that to someone, they can run through a wall when they hear that. We're in this together.
I remember how incredibly proud my mom was when I taught her how to peel a banana. She got it in her hand. She just could not figure out how you get to that thing inside. And I kind of told her to wiggle the top and I helped her kind of get it started. And the joy on her face, like, look at me.
Yeah.
It was priceless.
Yeah.
The joy that I was able to experience through that. But like I said, I had gotten to that point of acceptance. However, I also had to accept that even after I got to that point in managing myself where the switch had come and I'm, you got to be here and you got to be here and I got to be here. And, all the logistics were taken care of. I had to realize that my mom and the care that she needed, what she needed to be, what did Chuck tell me? Calm, comfortable, safe, clean,
and
loved. I realized that I couldn't provide that, and nor could my caregivers, because mom was falling. And also, even at one point, she just got down on the floor to pick something up and couldn't get back up. And it was too tough on my caregivers' backs to try to help her up because she couldn't help them. So now the squad's coming to the house. So it's physically draining and almost impossible for them. And then my mom got to the point where she did not want to leave the house with anyone but me or my friend Vicky. So if I was not available, and I wasn't because I needed her to go to daycare while I went to work, if Vicky wasn't available and she couldn't do it every day of the week, I had to have another caregiver. And at that point, when I tried to get those caregivers to take her out of the house, she got violent. And in one case, there were two cases where, I knew then that my caregivers, I had exhausted them. In one case, I'm sitting there at work and I get a text from my caregiver who says, your mom won't get in the car to go to daycare. And she was a nursing student and she needed to get to UNCC to take her exam. I'm sorry, Charlotte. She needed to get to Charlotte. That's what we call it now. She needed to get to Charlotte to take her exam. She had to, she couldn't abandon mom. So I said, put mom's purse in the car. Because my mom is like Sophia from the Golden Girls. She had to have her purse in her lap at all times. She knew where her purse was. If you put her purse in the car, she's getting in the car.
It worked.
No, it did not. Because then at that point, she texts me. Meanwhile, I'm in the middle of a radio show on my phone. She texts me, your mom just hit me. Because she took her purse and put it in the car. Now mom's ready to fight. So I said, aha, she loves that dog. Anywhere the dog goes, she's going. So I texted back,
put the dog in the car.
And then I got a text back that said, your dog just bit me.
Not a good day.
And then I just texted back, I'm on my way. Please don't quit.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But after she beat up one aide so badly that, she kicked her phone out of her hand, and she actually, very gangsta, was able to get her foot under the car door and repeatedly use the car door to slam it up against the woman's hip, leaving her bruised. I mean, it was such gangster.
Yeah, she lost it.
WWE raw stuff. I mean, it was like, how are you coming up with this stuff, dementia lady?
Yeah.
But it was at that point where all of my caregivers, two of them literally beaten, and a third one who was in the rotation, who was a family friend, who mom wound up falling in love with her and trying to sneak upstairs to crawl in bed with her. At that point, we're not getting any sleep. Yeah. Mom is falling. I can't take her out of the house.
It's time.
She's up at night and I can't get any sleep.
All right. The number one indication for moving someone, we call it the care partner phase. Okay. Care partner meaning I need more help. And it's not necessarily hygiene. Oftentimes it is when someone falls and they can't get back up, because then you've got the cops coming or the fire department to come.
Came to the house a couple of times.
But
thank you, Jim's.
It's
gas and emergency medical services.
It's a line that occurs. And the caregiver says, there is no way that we can continue to do this at home. And it is perfect. And oftentimes it is a little bit late. Okay, you've tried everything. You've kept them there maybe 3 or 6 months past where that line has already been passed. Yeah. And the thing that is so surprising is that when the patient gets into their room at the place that you choose for them, and I love the choice of a care home because they're oftentimes family settings.
Yeah, care homes are for those of you, and I wasn't familiar with the concept of the care home until I was introduced to it by my dementia care counselor. Mm-hmm. But they're in homes in neighborhoods, up to 6 people, are cared for there. They have some specifically for dementia care, some for elder care, some for people with all types of developmental disabilities.
Well, it's oftentimes a very nurturing. I like smaller spaces. People say, "Oh, we'd like a large bedroom." No, the patients at this point like to have smaller surroundings. They like to control their environment, at least how they perceive it. And oftentimes, within a very short amount of time, sometimes hours to days, they become very happy, routine care. Huh?
It shocked me.
Yeah.
I tell you, the night, the night that I took her in the evening to this care home in Huntersville that I'd found. It was the last one on my list. Lord knows I was sitting outside praying that it would be okay when I went inside. And there was this lovely little woman in there named Donna. And when I toured it, she said, "Are you going to be living here?" And I said, "No, I'm not. But my mom might be living here." And I heard her say that she hoped that she got a roommate and that she hoped she would be a good roommate. I said, "Oh, ma'am, if you're hoping that you'll be a good roommate, you will be."
Absolutely.
And then when she found out that my mom was coming to stay there, she said, "I want you to know that I'm going to take good care of your mom. She'll never be alone." And I said, that's the answer I was looking for. Because when I walked in, do you know that woman who's in this care home told me I looked like somebody she knew. And I said, "Ma'am, who do you think I look like?" Because I was really expecting this little white-haired lady to say that I look like Oprah or Michelle Obama, because generally that's what people say. And she said, "You look just like Ramona Holloway."
That made your day.
That gave me hope.
Yeah.
That mom would be okay there. And I said, "My mom's coming here." She said, "I'll take care of her every day." And the night that I took mom and dropped her off there, that woman named Donna met her at the door and told my mom that she could come sit in her room, or that she'd come sit in her room if she got lonely. And she took her to the kitchen. Mom saw some chocolate donuts. I slipped out the side door.
Perfect.
Waited all night for a call to say she'd beaten somebody up.
And she did well there.
And when I got there the next day, they didn't have a bit of trouble. They asked her when she said she was ready to go. They took her to her room, which I had set up like her room at home with her bed and her bedding. So, "Is that your bed?" She said, "Yeah." She got in bed and went to sleep.
Yeah.
And then the next day when I showed up, she was mad that I came because she had some new friends in a new place. And I was from the old place and she didn't really want me there. But I thought it was very funny that she loved it.
Yeah.
And she made a friend on her very first day. And that woman, Donna, after my mom passed, sent me a letter saying that when her children put her there, she was feeling very purposeless. And she really kind of lost her will to live until mom showed up and gave her someone to care for.
An idol.
Yeah.
One of the things I want to caution people about when you place your, in-home care 24/7 is about $195,000 a year.
Yeah.
Who can afford that? Okay.
I couldn't. I was doing okay in radio, but I wasn't doing $195,000 out of pocket.
So I want to caution one thing. We call it the coffee and donuts phenomenon. When you take your loved one and put them into a facility, it's very traumatic. And also there's a tremendous amount of guilt associated with it. You feel like, "Oh my gosh, I've let them down. I promised them that I never would put them in a home," and all that stuff, which don't promise that. Okay. But what happens is that, the next time that you come and everything is not perfect, the tendency is to overreact to it, to just cloud up and rain on everybody. And it might be something very minor, but you're sort of acting out your own guilt profile. So I like this coffee and donuts deal is in the first 4 or 5 days where you've placed someone for the staff at the facility, you bring coffee and donuts and you thank them for helping you make this transition. And the next thing you know is that you then you get to know who's caring for your loved one.
Mm-hmm.
You know their names, you know a little bit about their families, and all of a sudden you've stepped into the story of this facility. And when you do that, that is translated into care for the patient, for the person that you care about. Instead of, if you are always complaining and you are demanding, then that also has its effect on the care of the patient. They're going to say, oh my God, here we go again. We can't please this person. So why try? Okay. So coffee and donuts, just say thank you for what you're doing. Tell me about your mother and father. Are they doing well? I hope you never have to go through this. And then all of a sudden, you're just part of this, and you're a positive part, and the care will benefit from it.
Yeah. I was able to benefit from a lot of people through support groups who gave me some great advice, like don't ever say goodbye. Like I would ask mom if she needed something from the store, and then I would leave. And when I came back the next day, I would have that thing. Yeah. I oftentimes showed up with cupcakes because they made me a winner with everybody in the facility. Like I was the girl.
I think an ice cream sandwich would have been a pretty good thing.
At that point, all the ice cream sandwiches she wanted.
I know.
But the beautiful part of it was that she loved it. And I loved being a daughter again.
Yeah.
And I kind of look back on it like, why did I fight that? Because she truly loved it. Yeah. She loved the experience of being with her friend Donna. And it was someone who could be her peer, her buddy, like we used to be. And when I looked at what people said online after I placed her, I'm so thankful that I did the work on me first so that I could share my mom's journey publicly without feeling like I was doing something wrong. Because when I posted about placing mom in a care home, and then roughly 2 months later posted that she had passed, I got some very disgusting, just downright disgusting social media messages from people who said that I'd given up on her. And look, you put her there in June and now here she is in August. She gone. Like, hello, people. Hello. Why do you think I put her in there? Not because she was doing great and was going to live for another 10 years. Like, she needed so much that I could not physically and or financially do at home. Because even if I did have the money to bring in 24-hour-a-day care, my bedroom was right above hers. If she was up falling or having night terrors, setting off the alarm, whether we had a caregiver or not, I'm not getting any sleep.
You have to get sleep. Okay?
And the thing that I found, and even when, at some point in 2021, I went from working in the afternoon on the radio to working in the morning. So my schedule completely changed, and I needed people to show up at 4 a.m. because the minute mom heard me upstairs, she wanted to be up. Mm-hmm. She heard something upstairs. Now she's up and ready to roll. Well, I need time to shower and get myself dressed. So I had to have a caregiver come at 4 a.m. so I could let them in and someone could be with mom. And I said 4 a.m. I didn't really need them until really 4:30, but that gave them time to be late. I could still get in the shower and do everything I needed to do and get to work on time. But trying to care for someone in your home isn't just about that person showing up to bathe them and feed them. It's also about that calm part you talk about, the sleeplessness. If there's noise in your household all night long, because this person with dementia sleeps during the day.
Mm-hmm. They might walk all night long. You saw it.
But what you said about dignity was important too, because as I let her be in her dementia world and joined her as best I could. It did preserve her dignity. And it turns out that preserving her dignity by just saying, "Yeah, you absolutely are sexy. I absolutely will not do your hair extra fancy because I don't want you breaking up marriages in the neighborhood either." Once I was able to get there,
You got your
I
sense
preserved
of humor
her
back. Yeah.
dignity, and it preserved my sanity so I could do my job, so I could show up for other people. It allowed me to be able to, first of all, show up for myself, then I could join her. So
One of the things we forget about, and I was talking to a friend of my daughter's. We happened to be in a resort, and I asked her about her mother who had had a stroke, and I said, "Well, how's your dad doing?" And she said, "My dad is the best caregiver in the world. He gets up in the morning and has breakfast, lunch, and dinner with my mother, and I just can't tell you what a good caregiver he is." And I said, "Well, now your dad is he's a father, he's a grandfather, he's a friend to people. What about those other roles? What about his life? There are two lives that are going on here." And I said, we can't forget about that. Time spent with his grandchildren. We need to break him out of this. This has become an obsession. And she looked at me almost like I didn't understand. And then the next day she said, "I've been thinking about what you said, and we do need to get him back as a father, as a grandfather." And when you said, here I am as a daughter, once the caregiving role sort of overwhelms the daughter role, we may be getting too far away because she needs a daughter. And this business of subjugating everything in your life to be that caregiver, and you lose the balance, then there are two lives that are lost. Two lives. So,
and is it really true that a large percentage, close to half of dementia caregivers wind up sick or dying because they tried too hard to take care of their loved one and not hard enough to take care of themselves?
Well, there's no question that the lives of caregivers are impacted by the stress, higher heart attacks and strokes. The number is somewhere around 30% of caregivers will die before the patient. In our experience, it's a little bit lower. It's always a shock. It is a shock that we get a call that so-and-so, this marvelous wife of this man who's taken care of, and all of a sudden she's gone. And of course, the whole thing, we're trying to decide, how we're going to, have the family come in, and we got to decide what to do. But the neglect of the caregiver themselves, we spend a lot of time, and we have a lot of material on this on our website.
Which is
mmclt.org. There's all kinds, and it's open to the public. Anybody can go on there, but there's all kinds of videos and take charge directions. It's amazing, really. And so, but we have to be a little bit selfish in taking care of ourselves, because if we have a debilitating illness, then you can't take care of anybody. So start with yourself. I always use the metaphor, like on the plane, when they say the oxygen comes down, put it on you first, and then put it on that little kid next to you, if he's behaving himself.
It would really get on my nerves when people would tell me that I needed to go get a pedicure. I needed a nap so badly. Yeah. I needed someone. There were really times at work when I needed someone to say, it's okay. We get it. You're doing a lot. And that never happened. And I recognize that what happens in most people's households, and probably especially in a dementia household, you don't have a person who looks sick. You have this invisible buzz of really insanity that's happening with this person. And other people simply can't, and I don't think they can see it or get it.
Well, one of the, we talked a little bit about this with the no casseroles for crazy. It's not that the people that are friends, first of all, people always ask me, do I need to tell anybody or, sort of shout from the rooftops that my mother has dementia and I want you to understand that? You did the opposite for a while. Mm-hmm. No, that's not how it goes. But your close friends and the people that are your authentic friends need to know. And the reason why is because...
Even if your parent says, I don't want people in my business?
No, yeah, it's important because what happens is that, let's say that you and your mother are out having dinner in the early phase, okay? And there's a group there, and your mother is, for the first 5 minutes, she does fine, and then she repeats a story, and then she makes some sort of comment because of disinhibition or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then the people get in the car, and they're driving home. And these are close friends, and you say, did you see what happened to Ramona's mother tonight? I think there's something wrong. Mm-hmm. If Ramona has said, we're struggling a little bit, and Mom may repeat herself, she still loves being around y'all, so I hope you'll understand. They're part of the treatment then. And when they're going home, you know what they say? She told that story twice, but she really did well tonight. And so you've got this. So
I used to tell people, when you hear the same story, start asking questions. Well, what did the dog look like? Just make it fun for yourself, because You're going to hear, you ask the name of the dog, she's going to tell you he's Henri Louis, and there's a half an hour lesson on French history that's coming at you.
There you go.
So you teach people to do something that I say is key for families in this situation. Our secrets can keep us really sick. And I feel like trying to hold on to that, the facade of okay, that I could do it, that I was doing it, was harmful to me and therefore to her.
Well, you're a very, you don't have a lot of what you see is what you get. When you talk to you, you're not going to be very good at shrouding things, okay?
Well, I was, my job at that point, my whole job, our financial survival, I felt, was balanced on whether or not I could show up and be funny every day. So by sharing my own life, it wasn't that I was, writing material about something else. My job was to share funny stories about me while there was some really weird stuff happening in my household that later on, some of the funny stories, it turns out, you know what? I bet when Mom took her pants off in front of that guy, I bet when she got naked and lost her inhibitions because she had dementia.
Yeah, looking back.
You look back on some of these things and it starts to make sense.
It makes sense. Sometimes, just like everything else in life, it comes a little late, but we'll probably talk in the next session about what happens afterwards and how you sort of come to grips, how these grief reactions occur, and we'll have to get into that.
And can we talk about fear again?
Absolutely.
Because I don't think that there is a single child of a parent who has or had dementia who doesn't wonder if they will be the same way.
I've written a bunch of times about this, that dementia is different. The day the diagnosis is made for Alzheimer's or related dementia, everyone involved's lives changed irrevocably forever. Meaning,
so I want you to stop there because I'm going to ask a question that we are going to carry on to part 4 of our series. And that question is, would you want to know? Chuck, thank you. Dr. Chuck Edwards from Memory and Movement Charlotte. This has been part 3 of our 4-part series on caregiving for people with cognitive decline. Thank you for joining us. Look for part 4 on caregiving and beyond.
This podcast was made possible by Memory and Movement Charlotte, a nonprofit practice providing comprehensive clinical and diagnostic expertise for individuals with cognitive and movement concerns. Find the Memory and Movement Charlotte website at mmclt.org and listen to Dr. Chuck Edwards' podcast, On Your Mind, at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and everywhere the finest podcasts are found.
Thanks for sharing hope with me. If you'd like to connect, go to RamonaHolloway.com. You can find me on my socials. Once again, Ramona Holloway. And if you'd like to support this podcast, guess what? RamonaHolloway.com.
QueenCityPodcastNetwork.com.